excited to introduce to you our powerful woman today. We are here with Rabbi Adena Blum, Senior Rabbi at Beth Chaim in Princeton, New Jersey. Shalom, hello, welcome.
Shalom, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's so good to see you. Oh, so let's start way back. Tell us, how did you decide to become a rabbi? And if you could take us through your journey from making that decision to where you are today at the highest level you can get.
All right. It's a story I love to tell. It starts my senior year of high school when I started looking at colleges with strong pre-med programs. My father is a chemist in pharmaceuticals. My mother's a structural engineer. I loved biology and how our bodies worked. And I loved children. So I thought, yeah, I'll become a pediatrician, sure. And in that senior year, a lot of things happened for me. I was at a private school with a rabbi on campus who pulled me aside and said, hey, I've got these unaffiliated younger siblings of students who'd love to become bar bat mitzvah. Would you be interested in tutoring them? And here I am doing that and helping the rabbi with different aspects of Jewish life on campus. And one day she joked that I should take her job when she retires. And then she stopped joking. And that was the first step. But then I was in a class to get a teaching certificate in Reform Jewish education, which you don't need that to teach Hebrew school, but I was looking for something to do Jewish after my confirmation in 10th grade. And my teacher pulled me aside after Prophet's class one day. He is now a Reform rabbi, but had just been accepted to the seminary. And he said, you seem to really enjoy this. Have you thought about becoming a rabbi? So when I had these two people who did not know each other, could not have possibly shared notes, said to me, this is something you should think about. All of a sudden, I wondered what that would look like. And it seems a little coincidental that all these schools with strong pre-med programs tended to also have strong Judaic studies programs. So I didn't have to switch up my college, list too much. And unsurprisingly landed at Brandeis University. I'd never been around so many Jewish people before, having grown up in the Princeton area where there are lots of different kinds of people from all different backgrounds. And I always felt like I was one of the fewer Jews in the community. Brandeis was challenging for me because I met Jews who were different than me, who didn't understand Reform Judaism or questioned my legitimacy in pursuing the rabbinate as a woman. I also spent my junior year in Israel, which I was inspired to do after going on Birthright. And again, talking to secular Israelis who looked like me and dressed like me, but had only ever known an Orthodox rabbinate. And again, having to prove myself and my dreams and hopes of becoming a rabbi. But I was never deterred enough to change paths. And when I graduated Brandeis, ended up at Temple Isaiah in Lexington, Mass, where I got to meet Rachel and work with her, and worked, under a rabbi who was really an inspiration and a mentor to me, Rabbi Howard Jaffe, who really shored me up to apply for rabbinical school, explore my options, and feel confident that I had chosen a path that was right for me. So it all started when I was right around 18. And when I went to my 5-year high school reunion and people asked me what I was doing, and I said, applying to rabbinical school, they were all surprised that I had maintained this dream that I had kept from high school graduation, because many of my peers had shifted gears throughout the years.
Wow, I love that story. And especially that you were open to those signs and what people were telling you, and you weren't just like, pediatrician, this is it, I can't be, but you really listened and felt in your gut what was right for you.
And I'm really glad I avoided organic chemistry.
Yeah, I don't blame you, right? Oh, that's awesome. Oh my gosh. So, well, you mentioned, people questioning your legitimacy as a female rabbi. And, this is a clergy field that's been male dominated for literally thousands of years.
Yes.
And I think in my research, I saw that I think 40 years ago, there were like 3 women rabbis in the US or something ridiculous like that. So can you share, as a powerful woman, what were some of the challenges and how did you overcome them? Because clearly you have.
Yeah, I did not have a positive female rabbinic role model until that woman that I mentioned, that rabbi on my high school campus, who inspired me to work with other Jewish students. And she was the first female rabbi that I really had a chance to get to know well, and who took me under my wing and showed me how a woman could balance work and life in the rabbinic field. I've been very blessed that I haven't had all of the challenges that some of my female colleagues have experienced. I don't know if folks have been following the news, but there's been a lot about sexual harassment in the rabbinate, or in the cantorate, of female leaders, or at the hands of male rabbis. Been very blessed that way, that, the extent to which I may have gotten comments that could have borderline sexism, may have had to do with that my hair was in my face. I mean, these are pretty low, or slim pickings.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful that way. There were some, I won't even say challenging, but some conversations that happened around maternity leave or family leave, as I keep trying to use that term, because it shouldn't only be for women who are giving birth, but in general, the congregation supported me throughout both of my pregnancies with my boys. Couldn't wait for me to return from my leave, but we were able to work out what felt really equitable to me. And now we're figuring out the work-life balance, because especially once COVID first hit, I became the default in my house as much of a partner as my husband is, who's very committed to egalitarian values. He would often have to be more involved with work during the day. And that meant I had to sort of figure out my work schedule around that to be with the kids. So it was definitely a challenge, especially once we were in isolation.
Oh, I'm sure. But how awesome that now you can be a role model for other women who are coming up to see a strong, powerful, female rabbi. I mean, that's really, doesn't get better than that, and then they can look to you to be a mentor. Wow. Well, tell us, what do you like best about being a rabbi? I'm sure there's so many ups and downs, goods and bads, but give us some of the highlights.
So my favorite overarching theme is that I get invited into people's lives in a really beautiful and powerful, intimate way. For example, someone who grew up at the congregation that I didn't know, but my predecessor was the one who officiated his bar mitzvah. Turns out he still lives in the community with his family, but he reached out to me as he's having some serious spiritual challenges. And we had a really powerful conversation today when we had never met each other before. And people, by nature of the position, people will look to the rabbi for guidance, even if they may not know that person very well, in the hopes that they'll be able to help them. I'm preparing actually for one of my favorite things to do as a rabbi. I'm getting ready to go to the mikveh, the ritual bath, to help someone become Jewish. This is actually someone who has one Jewish parent and one non-Jewish parent, but had been raised Christian. And so has now gone through this really active process of reclaiming her Jewish roots. And there's something that moves me every single time they come out of the ritual bath, really reborn and changed. And like, I made a Jew today, it's powerful for me, even as the witness or the officiant.
Wow. I remember hearing a story of a good friend of ours who converted, and he said when he came out of the mikveh, he felt like his molecules were spinning in a different direction. I'm like, that is really powerful.
It's transformative.
It is. And it's interesting because when you're a rabbi like you, who's very warm and engaging, I feel like you really kind of wear two hats, because you have to wear the hat of the spiritual leader and you offer guidance, but you also have to have the scholarly hat. If someone says, Rabbi, where can I find this? You know what I mean? Yep. So do you find that the best rabbis really kind of marry those two together?
Absolutely. I mean, the good news is I'm a total nerd. So I've been accused of not always having the answer, but knowing where to get the answer, which I think is honestly the best way to go about it, because I'm a big book fan. You can't tell from my virtual background, but I can see, Rachel, you love your books too. Like in my first office, I had to keep bringing more bookcases in so that I could fit all of my books. And I have not read them all, full disclosure, but I have a sense of what's in my library when people come to me I'm looking for X, Y, or Z answer to this question, I can often at least direct them to a bookshelf where I think a couple of these books will help you. Or like knowing how to enabling people to navigate the internet, which has everything, and you don't know what's valuable and what's propaganda. So somebody just knowing where to find the answer can be good enough. And like that's how I try to balance it, because you can't be 110% in everything, as hard as we might try.
Exactly. Well, and full disclosure, I've known some rabbis who were dynamite with the scholar. They could tell you what page something was on, but then maybe not so good at the grief counseling or whatever it was. And so
Right.
it's so important for someone, especially. Is your congregation, is there a lot of young people?
Yes, we have every age demographic represented, except for folks who are not yet married, who are adults in their own right.
Oh, interesting. Oh, how
Mhm.
interesting. But having that example to show young children that because growing up, I was very lucky that I had a very warm rep. But then for some of my parents, it was very off limits. You don't talk personally to the rabbi. He's sort of up here. And
Right.
it's really helpful for young people to have someone they feel like they can come to if they need spiritual guidance or whatever. If they can't go to their parents or something like that, they can come to you.
Right.
Oh, I love that. Oh, you were so born for this role. I mean, I know you know that, but I'm just saying. People say like they're called to the clergy. I mean, I really feel like you're one of those capital R rabbis that I
Mhm.
think we need more of, to be honest.
And a lot of rabbis are nervous about using the language of call because it's sort of it feels more like a Christian term, but that's always how I felt, that I have been called to this work, and it really feeds my soul in an important way, as challenging as it is.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. Wow. Well, as you mentioned, you wear a lot of hats. I mean, rabbi is 24/7. I mean, first of all, and then mom, let's see, two young boys, wife, sister, daughter, aunt, friend, the list goes on. So how do you manage all of your passions so successfully?
I'm so
All the
glad
time.
I'm glad you assume that it's all successfully, but thank God for Google Calendar. I don't know what we would have done without it. So a lesson that I really took away actually from my father, who was a very dedicated professional who traveled a lot growing up. He's asked, as my sister and I have entered adulthood, as he's reflecting on those years where he often felt like he wasn't home, did we feel that we missed him? And I said, no, absolutely not. We knew that you needed to travel and do work to care for this family, but when you were home, you were home with us. And so I've really used that as a model for my own family life, not just my two boys and my husband, but also my extended family, all of whom, are in New Jersey for the most part, or the tri-state area. And how do I show up for my family when I am home? Of course, this is Adena talking from before COVID. It's been complicated since then, but that I make time, even if it's a half hour here or a half hour there, to go play outside with the kids on a nice day when we're all home together in between meetings, or catching, making sure that I do bedtime at least a couple nights a week so that my kids know that I'm there for them.
Mhm. Oh, I love that. I I think especially as women, if we're expected to do it all, then we're expected to give 100% at work and 100% at home and 100% to the mother and everything else. But what that results often is 50%. I'm with my kids, but I'm on my phone, or I'm on my email. I'm thinking about my kids, and that's a trap that I think we fall into when we have that expectation.
Mhm.
So I really love the idea of being 100. When I'm at work, I'm 100% at work. When I'm home, I'm 100% at home. That's really great advice.
It's not a perfect science, and I there are times where I have to be on call in case of a life cycle event, but if it means I let it go to voicemail, I check the voicemail. No one's in a life-threatening situation, great, I'll call them back after Shabbat.
Right, exactly. Oh, you really have found a balance. That's wonderful.
Trying every day is a new adventure.
Sure. So, can you share some tools in your toolbox for
Mm.
how you manage it all?
Yeah, well, I already talked about Google Calendars. I share one with my husband so that we can sort of get a sense of where we're at. I mentioned to you, Rachel, offline earlier, that we've engaged an au pair who helps us balance work with the kids and get them where they need to be. But we also it helps us get more organized to set a schedule with her.
Mm.
So that's very much helpful. And also, like, if you ever want to make an appointment with me, do not do not let me go until I've actually written it down.
Right. Yeah.
I've got post-it notes all over my desk, but like the sense of satisfaction I feel to take one and throw it in the garbage is really liberating.
Absolutely right. Are you a list person? I'm a list person.
Oh, list person. But my problem is that then I get too many lists and then I got to keep track of the list. So I've been trying to, simplify my system. So I've got notes on my phone and post-it notes that are visible as like a visual reminder. And that, is those are my main tools for trying to stay organized and on top of things.
Nice.
And then the other piece is, sorry, that if it's that important, I'll actually schedule it on my calendar, like pastoral phone calls or, follow up with so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. And I'm finding that that's really helpful to keep the balls in the air.
Oh, that's to designate the time for the stuff that, oh, I'll get to it. Well, now I'm going to get to it because it's in a little box because I have to get to it now. I'm going to do that. That's very good. Because I have my list, but then they're sort of like, well, I have to do blah, 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 but it's not, I don't schedule. Very good. I was going to say back when my kids were little, and I guess there might have been Google Calendar, but I didn't use it. We had the 4-color pen on the big calendar on the wall. So we knew where everybody had to be at a glance.
Well, the good news is Google Calendar has lots of colors to choose from.
Oh, no. Oh, see? Oh.
It's the same idea.
And you can delete. You don't have to create.
Right.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's so great. Well, and it is nice too to feel like we have these tools. It's like they're there, use them. It's not a Google Calendar is not a crutch, like to say like, oh, I can't. It's like, it's there, use it,
Right.
Oh, that's so awesome. So you clearly went after your dream again with some challenges because it wasn't sort of maybe expected of you from everyone. So do you have some advice for someone who might want to go after their dream and societal norms or peer pressure might say, no, you can't do that, because you really are a shining example of saying, I can do this, I'm doing it, and you've done it.
I'm reflecting on my own story and thinking about what helped me get through, especially those moments of challenge when someone had told me, well, you can't do that. And those words did escape people's lips. And it was helpful for me to know that not only I could do it, but I've seen it. Like, it was something I had experienced. So you're wrong. And sometimes people are wrong and you can call people out when they're wrong. I know that we're in a milieu where that feels a lot more complicated, but sometimes the simple answer is that may not be your experience, but it's mine. And if you feel that you have really good reasons or this is what your heart is telling you to do, then follow your dreams. And a conversation I had earlier today was, it's okay if our path is winding, if we feel we might have setbacks. If we're staying true to ourselves, then we can really fulfill our hopes and dreams. And it won't mean it's without challenges or obstacles, but my parents, one of the best pieces of advice they gave to me was quoting Shakespeare, "To thine own self be true." And that really does guide a lot of how I approach life.
It's so beautiful. And I think a lot of it comes down to is to listening to that, because sometimes when the voices outside get too loud, saying you can't do this, who do you think you are, et cetera, we can't be quiet enough to listen to that. And that I feel like is so key, especially as women.
And you want to have people in your life that you trust who will call you out if you're out of line. You can say as sounding boards, hey, you're somebody that I know and love. I think you'll tell me the truth if I ask you this question. Am I living in fantasy land or am I just meeting some resistance? And if you have even 2 to 3 people in your life that you can call up and really ask for that honest feedback, I think that's a helpful checks and balances as you're trying to assess, is this something I really should be pursuing, or have I made up this opportunity in my mind?
And that's also really good advice, because sometimes our community is people that we've just kind of always known, or we're friends with or whatever for whatever reason. But it's like if we can consciously create a community around us of people who are not just to like yes us to death. I mean, who doesn't want that? But
And you always need a cheerleader also. Sometimes
yes,
it's the same person and sometimes it's somebody else.
right, right. But that's a real conscious choice I think we can make to say I need these people who are going to lift me up, but who are also going to keep me on my path, when I need to be kept on the path, and just to be honest. And I know I've struggled with that in my own life of just sort of saying, if I need encouragement, I know I can go to this person. If I need, an honest something, I can go to this. And that's super important.
Yeah, I've been working with a rabbinic coach. You might know him from Temple Isaiah, Rabbi David Wolfman, for
Oh
at least
yeah.
5 years now.
Mhm.
And what we're working out right now is identifying who in my career is my cheerleader, who is my mirror, who is my my brainstorm buddy, to like identify people in my professional community who like fulfill different roles for me. And we can put names and labels on these folks so that like I know when I want to think really creatively and outside the box, I always go to so and so. But if I need a reality check, I'm going to go to this other person.
I love that so much. I love that so much. Wow. Because I think sometimes we also will say, oh, someone's my best friend. And therefore they have to fulfill all these roles. And no one person can, no relative can. So to know that oh my gosh, wow.
It's like
Wow.
the cabinet mentality that, if I'm gonna be the chief of, the chief officer, I want to surround myself with advisors who know more about certain things than I do. Like, for example, my husband is not the go-to guy if I'm having an emotional reaction to something. But if I have a business question, you better believe it. Like that was something they didn't teach me in rabbinical school, but he can really help me wrap my head around budget questions or staff management questions that are popping up.
Wow. Oh, that's so great. What a great takeaway. I kind of want to get out the whiteboard and make like little, make my cabinet. I love
Yeah.
that. So I have to let you go, but tell me, what are you looking forward to the most when everything opens up again?
Mm.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
I think singing with others where I can actually see your face. So I led a Youth Corps memorial service yesterday for the holiday of Shavuot. It was so hard to be present for a very small in-person congregation that we are physically very distant and they're masked. And I could not, it was so hard to read their body language. Did they need comfort in this moment? Were they feeling comforted? To be able to meet them where they're at, it felt impossible in that situation. So I want to make music again, not being just in my box. On mute, and to really be with people and be able to be in the fullness of everything they bring. I can't wait for that.
You have a gorgeous voice too, by the way. So wow.
I have to give a shout out that Rachel is one of the people who taught me what it meant to really make music, not
Oh,
only playing my guitar, which I still rock a mean like Todd Shabbat, but not much more than that. But like what it means to blend and be part of a group and music production. And I still actually think very fondly back to those days. A lot of good lessons for both the rabbinate and my life.
oh,
Our time together.
oh, that's so nice. I've had memories of that too. I really do. It has been such a joy to talk to you. I hope I can come to New Jersey sometime and see you in person. I would love that. Oh my
Same.
goodness. Thank you for your time. Toda Rabbah. You're so inspirational. Oh my goodness. This was great. Thank you.
Toda rabah, b'vakasha.
Oh, mwah. Take care. Bye.